Hello and welcome to another episode of Google Sheets learning series with Sayed. In this episode, we will be covering few topics about editing data inside Google Spreadsheets. How do we go ahead and enter data or edit data inside Google Spreadsheets is a vital part toward enhancing your learning about Google Spreadsheets. So these are the topics that will be covered in this demonstration. Entering data in cells, understanding the cell reference, adding single or multiple row or columns, removing single or multiple row or columns, clearing data, and how to move cells, rows, or columns around your Google spreadsheets. So while we go through this, sit back, relax, take a look. In case if you would like to follow along with me, click on the link in the video description that is available for you. Click on the link, it will open in a new tab that will allow you to make a copy of this workbook and follow along with me. Now I click on this cell in the column B. The vertical sections that are denoted by letters are the columns, and the horizontal sections denoted by numbers are rows. Each cell has a unique reference. For example, if I place my selection here by clicking on that cell, it's in the column B and it's in row 1. That's B1. That's the reference of that cell. So if I have to enter something here, I simply need to place my selection on that cell and start typing in. For example, I would like to type in sales data, and to complete the action, I have to press enter on the keyboard. That is how I enter data inside cell. Now, in case if I need to replace that with something else, I will simply say regional sales data. I simply started typing in on the same cell. I placed my selection on the cell and I started typing in my new data. I have replaced that data with my new data by simply typing over that cell. If I desire not to do this action, I can press escape on my keyboard. It will not apply this new entered value, but it will keep that old value. But if I press enter, that new value will be applied. So let me try that one more time. Instead of sales data, I will say sales data new, and I press enter on the keyboard. That's how I replaced it. In case if I just want to replace that word new with say data values, all I have to do is double click inside that cell or press F2 on the keyboard or click inside that formula bar on the top. That will allow me to remove and change values inside that cell, that is append or change or completely delete that value. So I'll just backspace on that new and then add say values and press enter on the keyboard to complete that action. Now see how my sales data values is spanning on the column C. I don't want that to happen. I want it to stick inside column B. You see that thin grid line going across between column C and column B? That is an indicator that this is the scope of column B and the other part is the scope of column C. And my sales data values, that string, is overlapping on the column C. So I have to expand my column B width a little more to make that look inside the cell B. How do I do it? I take my mouse cursor between column B and column C. The moment I place my mouse cursor there, you can see the cursor icon has changed. Now with that in place, I will hold my left mouse key down. Without releasing it, I will simply drag it across. This seems to be okay width. I'll just release it here. So that's how I expand the width of column B. I can even double click there. For example, let me put it back here. Now if I just double click, it will expand the width of column B adequately to fit the maximum width of the available data in that range. So I double click. There we go. So that's how I fit that value inside column B scope. Now, after looking at how we enter data in cells, how about taking a look at entering some numbers? For example, if I have to enter a number here, say 6543, I press enter to complete that action. Similarly, if I want to edit it, I simply click inside the formula bar, or I double click inside the cell, or In case if I want to simply replace it with something else, I just type that value on that cell with the new value. There we go. So this is how we enter data in cells. Now let us take a look at the second part, that is how to add single or multiple rows or columns inside a spreadsheet. Now in this sheet, if I want to add a column towards the left side of column A, what I have to do is I will need to click on column A letter. While that is in my selection, I right click in the gray area of that letter. Then I say insert one on left or one on right. But I need a column on the left, so I say insert one on left. There we go. I have a new column there now. In case if I want to enter a row between these cells, I will simply select those rows. The more number of rows I select, that many number of rows can be inserted. For example, I selected 3 rows. I can right click in the selection area and I can say insert 3 above or 3 below. If I select more than 3, I selected 5 rows. If I right click inside this gray area, you will see it says insert 5 above or 5 below. It also gives me an option to delete the rows or clear the rows. We will come back to those options later. For now, let's select insert 5 above. This will insert 5 rows above the topmost selected row. Pay attention, I am going to undo that action, the last action, by pressing Ctrl Z on the keyboard. That is a shortcut to undo your last done action. The more you press Ctrl Z, the more it will go back. So from row 6 to row 9 is what I am selecting. So that's Henry and Harry. Those are the rows from top to bottom. I right click inside this region and I say insert 4 above. So it will insert 4 rows above Henry. See that one? So that's how you insert multiple rows. To delete multiple rows, you can simply select the amount of rows that you desire to delete, highlight them. How do you select them? You just click on the first row with your mouse, left click and drag it down till the point where you want the selection to go. And then in the selection area, right click in the gray area of that numbers, then click on delete rows from 6 to 9. That's how we delete multiple rows. To delete a single row, you just right click in any of this row, right click and click delete row. That's how you get rid of a single row. Similar is the fashion to delete the columns. You can select multiple columns, right click, delete those columns in selection. I don't want to delete them, so I will just get rid of that selection. So this is how we add or remove multiple rows and columns. Now what about clearing data? What do you mean by clearing data? Let me show you the difference between deleting and clearing data. For example, if I want to clear this data and not delete, see what happens. I have selected from row 5 to row 9. If I just right click and say clear row 5 to row 9, my selection from the bottom, that is from row 10, will not move above. It will simply remove that data without moving any of my rows on that sheet. But if I just press Ctrl Z and undo that last action, and instead of clearing the data, if I say right click and delete row from 5 to 9, instead of clicking on clear rows from 5 to 9, see, it will move the data from the bottom of that selection to the upward. That is, it will remove that cells along with the data and move the data that was right beyond that cell and attach it to the data on the top. This is how we delete the data or clear the data. So let me undo that action. Clearing data can also be done using the shortcut on your keyboard. You select that data and press delete on your keyboard. That will simply clear the data and not delete those cells in that range. Let me press Ctrl Z to undo that action. We know how to clear the data and remove the data, and we know the difference between clearing and deleting the data. Now let us take a look at how to move cells, rows or columns. If I want to move this cell value from this point to say this point, how do I do it? All I have to do is place my selection on that cell, move my mouse slowly toward the border of that cell. The moment I place my mouse selection on that border, look how my cursor changed into a palm icon. The moment I see that palm icon, I know it is ready to drag. I will left click and hold my mouse click down. See that palm has now turned into a punch, a kind of punch. It is now holding the cell value. I can drag it without releasing my mouse button. I will just drag it across wherever I want to place it. I can place it anywhere inside the sheet. So I'll just place it here at the last cell and release my mouse. That's how I move a cell value. In case if I want to move this entire column, how do I do that? I click on that column and then take my mouse on the column label, that is the column C, the gray area of that column C, that's the label area. The moment I take my mouse cursor, notice how my cursor is changing. If I move back and move back inside that region, see it is changing into a palm. If I left click and hold the mouse left click down, see it is now changing into a closed palm. All I have to do is, without releasing my mouse, I will simply drag it across. You see that gray line moving along the selection? If I leave my mouse here, it will not move it anywhere. It will just keep it there. But if I just move it a little bit ahead, it is going to move it beyond column B. That is, it will put it before column B. If I just release it there, see that it moved that column from that position to column B, and the column B was pushed to column C. If I just drag it again, hold it down and move it here and release it right about that point, it will again push the column C, that is names column, back to column B, and this column will be brought back or will be put back into column C. See that? So this is how we move columns. Similar is the case with rows. You can move the rows in a similar fashion. I would want you to practice that. I would leave that for you to practice. Try moving your rows, one row, two row, multiple rows. You can do that very easily. I hope this was helpful. In the next episode, I will be covering how to add or remove or name and rename sheets inside a spreadsheet, that is working with multiple spreadsheets, cloning, copying spreadsheets, and coloring your sheet tabs. So stay tuned, and if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel and click on that little bell icon to enable notifications and receive updates from my channel. Thank you so much. Stay happy, stay lovely. Until next time.